You're joining the Dr. Business Podcast with Dr. Hollen, where we talk business sprinkled with a bit of Jesus. Our goal is to help you simplify business, impact more lives, and increase your profitability. By sharing the stories of influential doctors from various specialties, we help you get creative in connecting with your target market, increasing your exposure in the community, and collaborating with local providers so you can reach more people and avoid burnout. Thanks for tuning in, and we're excited to help you navigate success in your doctor business. And now your host, Dr. Hollen.
All right, let's rock and roll. And thank you for joining us for another podcast. I'm Dr. Hollen, along with my guest, Debra Campbell. Thanks so much for joining us, Debbie.
Thanks for having me, Hollen.
You bet. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she has a degree in neuroscience. And really exciting that I'm going to talk about more today and really pull out of her. She's the co-founder of Curis Functional Health, and it's a series of holistic multidisciplinary wellness clinics where chiropractors, therapists, and dietitians collaborate toward optimal well-being. And the business model with that is absolutely genius. Now, Debbie has worked extensively with elite domain performance. So when I say that, think sports, arts, business, and perfectionism due to her unique background in applied sports psychology and positive psychology. She enjoys helping couples achieve deep connection and safety in their relationships, as she is the only level 3 PACT, which is psychobiological approach to couples therapy. She's that kind of clinician in the Metroplex and one of about 50 in the United States. So Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
You bet. So I described Curis Functional Health a little bit when I was introducing you, but can you tell us a little bit more? How did you create and develop that vision and that style of practice? Because I know you're the brains behind how that organically came about.
Sure. So, I have always looked at the person as a whole. And so, in my younger days when I was in college, I really wanted to look at how, the mind connects to the body, the spirit, the gut, right? All of the research was starting to kind of point in that direction that like maybe we're looking at things too separately and that we needed to look at them more together. And I went and spoke with a Nobel laureate who was like, you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. You can't research all of those things. You got to pick one. And so I did, but that never really left. And, I've continued to look at my clients as a whole and to want to put other experts in the same location so we can all work together to help people heal themselves and use their body, their mind, their gut to live their best life.
Yeah, so you really put the pieces from a clinical standpoint of the therapy component with helping their mindset and kind of the stories around whatever's going on in their life, the nervous system, which is the master controller of the body with chiropractic, and then also the nutrition aspect.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me is, most therapists refer to nutritionists. Most chiropractors refer to nutritionists. There's a huge disconnect between mental health and chiropractic, which I always find shocking because whenever I interface with chiropractors, they always buy into mental health, yet they rarely refer out. Like, not all, but it's a lot. And then vice versa. Mental health clinicians rarely refer to chiropractors. I think many mental health practitioners are highly unaware of all the benefits that chiropractors have, like all the things that chiropractors can do that they really don't talk about that they can do.
Right.
So when you put people in the same place and you allow them to work on the same cases, it's really exciting because there's all of this new information about how we can work together to help people feel their best, right? And then, the gut is such an integrative piece of that. Like everything in mental health is pointing to it's a gut issue too. And, there are lots of issues that have to do with eating that also have to do with how you think.
I love that. When I heard about this, I was like, that is absolutely brilliant. I need to meet this woman who is the brains behind connecting the dots and really being the pioneer and putting this all together. Because even in my practice, when I was active in practice, we did chiropractic, we did functional medicine, which is a nutritional component. And I knew that the therapy component was missing. I knew it because I knew a lot of reasons people weren't getting success or met a barrier in their success progress. had more to do with what's going on upstairs, or the reason that they're in the situation, or their issues manifesting in pain, in a pain source, right? So
Yeah.
I knew that. And so a lot of times we got stuck becoming friendly when really they needed more than just a friend to talk to. They needed a therapist like you. So I think this is brilliant. I fell in love with the concept of it. And then when I learned about the business model behind this, I was just blown away. Can you share with us more about the business model? And then I'll just dive right into it.
Sure. So, we take all three disciplines and house them under one roof, right? And we take care of the business aspects of running a private practice, which I don't know about you, but we were not taught any of those skills in school as mental health practitioners. I've never met a dietitian or nutritionist who's had that experience. And most chiropractors I know go seek that out, after they graduate. So we take care of all the business pieces of what you do, from renting the venue to, hiring the administrator and manage it, marketing, helping you come up with content, things like that. Shy of you showing up and doing in-person, interfacing, we take care of the business pieces of what our clinicians do, and let them stick to the things that they love doing the best, which is like serving their populations. So you can kind of walk in, walk out, and then we all collaborate, which is great. And then because it's such a new model, and there's really, most of us, when we decide we want to wrap out our practice, there's really no asset to sell. We've decided to create something that's very unique on the business side of things, where we are giving shares in the overall concept for our clinicians based on contributions. So it's a really, really different model.
It is. And I want to unwrap some of that, because there's a whole lot packed into what you said. So from the standpoint of the doctors and the therapists and the nutritionists, really being able to focus on their craft, right? And not being stressed with, now I've got to figure out and wing running a business and managing people, because that is a whole different ballgame that most clinicians are not good at, but it's a learning curve. And with this model, you get to focus on your craft.
Yeah, well, I mean, so, Andre at one point was like, your rate looks like it's this one thing, right? But actually it's not, because of all the time you're spending on administrative and, dealing with phone calls and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's completely right. Like, I had never thought about my business like that. And most of us really would prefer to not be in the middle of billing with our clients or talking money. Like most wellness practitioners really just want to help their clients get well. And, like having to deal with the money piece of things gets in the way, or having to deal with the personnel management gets in the way. Like, even if you like those pieces, they can still be very inconvenient and distracting when it comes to running a successful practice. And it's hard to scale because, it's not like, when you're doing these other, business building components of your practice, that you're going to start probably building multiple locations. I think there's a reason why we see most clinicians, building 1 to 3 offices. And with Curis, we're looking to build hundreds of offices, to house like-minded people who practice a variety of techniques, who want to focus on their craft and want to collaborate and want to be business owners. It's just a very different model.
It is. And in the past, I've always been a proponent of multiple revenue streams, right? And so what that led to, it was success, so that when one's down, others are up. However, what I also saw was people that were kind of half-assing business were then adding more on top of it on the plate. And that is not really a recipe for success in and of itself. But with this model, there's already multiple revenue streams pumping into it that you don't have to focus on, right? Like, you still get to focus on your craft, but you get to benefit from all of the different revenue streams that come into the business model.
Right. And we manage all of the business stuff for you, which is like, once again, I think most clinicians really don't want to be in the weeds with that stuff.
Yeah.
But want to be a business owner and a business builder and maintain their independence to practice. And so, like, these are shares in the mothership. These aren't shares in, just your specific clinic. And that's the other thing, like, because we have multiple clinics, you could practice in multiple venues if you want to. If you have a really specific area of expertise, like, it's expensive to have 4 offices,
Yeah.
but the way we, cut and divide costs, we're able to offer at multiple venues, and it's still the same percentage.
I love that. And something that we talk about on this podcast is collaboration. And we try to help people get in the mindset of get off your island and go out and like collaborate with people on business, see what they're doing so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But this already provides an environment of collaboration, not only within your specialty, but with like outside of your specialty already. How does Curis promote the collaboration component in business, but also clinically?
So we do case collaboration, like on any shared case. So, the clinicians get together and talk those cases through, but also we meet as an entire clinic and then an entire company to discuss our cases and things that are going on for us. And then we're always busy building, based on everyone's experience, best practices for our clinic, so, because it's really a business of owners, right? And so, we want to learn from our experiences and make it the best that it can possibly be. And when you put, these kind of top minds together, it's been so cool to see the outcomes, not just professionally in terms of like how the business is operating, but also in terms of the clients that see like 2 disciplines or 3 disciplines, like, just amazing things are coming out of it. In the sense that like, we have clients who are like, want to come in and their goals are like, I want to be off the medications that I'm on. I want to lead a healthier lifestyle, but I'm in pain or I have this mental health issue. And, the moment they're in 3 disciplines, like their life, just generally looks categorically different. And, like that's what I believed would happen. That's what I had seen in my personal experience in my life. But it's really, really validating to see it from the clients themselves who are saying things like, I would gladly give some sort of testimonial to the results that I'm seeing because this is what I came in wanting. And I've been struggling to have this for 20 years. I have an autoimmune and I just never thought my life could be like this. And that's the best feeling. I think that's why all of us get into this profession is we want people to heal and feel happy and live their best life. And so it just accomplishes so many goals at once where you get to be your own practitioner. The client gets the highest and best care that they can get. And we work with wherever that they're at, what model that is. Like we are totally, not anti-medicine. We are pro, using, whatever the client is comfortable using to get them where they want to go.
Exactly. And so some of y'all listening to the podcast right now, you cannot see the smile like from ear to ear on my face. It's hard for me to hide it because one of the reasons I fell in love with Curis is because she is the heartbeat of this company, and you can see how it always comes back to the patient. Like every time I ask a question, like it always comes back to what's best for the patient. How can we have a win-win-win business model for the patient, number one, the practitioners, and the business itself? So, and that's what's going to help us survive these tough times right now as well, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
I want to unpack more on the business side too, because you kept saying like we're working with owners, right? And it's really a business model. The profit sharing business model is partnering with these doctors. They don't become employees or anything like that. And it's not like you take over all the administrative stuff and they have like zero ownership, zero control, because I know that can be a sticking point for some people as well. Tell us more about what this partnership looks like, because most people that are listening into this have no idea what that even looks like.
Sure. It's such a great question because it's a really, really different model. So we partner with our clinicians and other offices. So when we have a clinician who wants to join us, we are looking at, we have our processes and we look at their processes and we incorporate and integrate to look at like, how we can best serve their client base. And so we want people to be able to practice how they want to practice. And then we're busy coming up with integrative standards for how we're going to do what we do across the different offices. We want you clinically to have the freedom to go train in whatever you want, practice whatever you want, and to be able to collaborate in an easier, more simple way. Like quality of care really matters to us at Curis. Like we want to be able to offer the highest and best quality of care. that is very client focused, very patient and client focused, while being able to offer the best business model for the clinicians. So, like this is part of why we partner with our clinicians, and they receive shares based on their performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's performance relative to the entire series of clinics. And so it's exciting in that sense because like there's no exit for most of us when we leave our practice that's really equitable compared to what we put into it, especially in mental health. There's nothing like this. I think as a chiro, you can probably sell your office and maybe your client list, but like and you might come out with something, a little something, but this is equity in the clinics. So this is not just your clinic. This is all of the clinics.
Right. So just to comment on a little bit of those things, I have friends and colleagues that have joined Curis, and some of them are pediatric chiropractors. Some of them are sports folks. Some of them are wellness family clinics. And so you don't have to change who you are or what you love to do or the population that you love to serve to join Curis. It's not a cookie cutter business model, correct?
No. There is space for everyone in our model, like there is a need in all of those places. So, the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just, allow people to practice what they are good at and what they want to be great at, free up their time so they can go do more of what they love doing, whether that's balance their time better between home and work, or train a new model, or just zone in on their client patients. Like this is really exciting to me. That part is really exciting to me because I think work-life balance is really challenging when you're managing your own practice and practicing in it, right? I mean, that's a tough thing. And so we have space for everyone.
Yeah.
The biggest primer is that you have to want to deliver the best for your clients, and, like you want to, put them first, like that's really it. And so there's, wherever there's going to be a client consumer need is a place where we need someone filling that need. And the beauty of being an expert in something different is that, like we can case consult across, clinics. So it's like you have an expert in sports and an expert in, peds, like, they can cross consult.
I love that. And the way I see this playing out is Curis is going to dominate the healthcare space because it makes sense, because they offer the best of the best, right, of the services of across all the disciplines. But it also gives us, especially in this time in life, this crazy time of businesses shutting down and just the hysteria going on, it creates a sense of security too, because you're not just on this island as one practice. You have this stability of instead of the big fish in a small pond, you're one office, you're actually one of many fish in this huge tank that's generating a ton of money, and you still get a piece of that. Tell us a little bit more about how, let's dig in, and you've mentioned it a couple times, but how does profit sharing work?
Okay, so the most simple way that I feel like I can explain that is when you have equity in the overall business, any year that we are wildly positive, in theory, a piece of that comes back to you based on proportionally what your shares are. It also means that at the point where there's an exit, there are funds that would come back to you as well. Like your shares become liquid at that point, so they're worthy of cash. And that's a different experience too. Like most clinicians will never have that experience of owning shares in their own company where it's going to become liquid unless they're in a different industry, like or maybe if you're in the medical industry, owning shares, maybe not unless you're a doctor, but then becoming liquid, sure, maybe.
Yeah, I know a lot of people love this for the exit strategy, because if you think about it, your practice might be worth X amount of money today. 10 years later, it might be the same, but it's no guaranteed growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it might actually go down as well. And so the exit strategy for your practice is not necessarily alone a good retirement plan. And I think the majority of the folks that have been in practice for a little bit realize that. But this model actually provides substantial growth over time, and it's really a long-term gain, and it's a long-term gain as well. And so the exit strategy is really a no-brainer. A lot of people are getting into this for the exit strategy, but they love the process along the way because there's more stability on a monthly basis. There's less stress on a monthly basis. And the way that you guys are able to profit so much month after month, year after year, is because you are consolidating all of your resources, right? So tell me more about what that looks like.
So yeah, that's the first part of the question. Sorry, I didn't really talk about that. So, we multiplex our space, which means we are able to optimize space. So a lot of chiropractors I know and therapists I know only use their office during certain times and certain days of the week.
Right. Chiropractors are like 3.5 days. That's all I got.
And,
so there's
and 2 hours for lunch or 4 hours for lunch.
Yeah, 2-hour lunches. And so there's so much time available where that space is not being utilized, right? It's not pumping out services.
Right. So we take that space and we consolidate everyone together so that we can optimize the utilization of space, which then helps us optimize profitability, which then offsets liability, which I think is what you were talking about earlier, where it's so much easier for like a one-person shop to go under because, the margins are different, but because we're multiplexing space and it has multiple uses, and multiple clinicians, we're able to make the space much more profitable, which you're an owner, that's something you should want.
Exactly. And in this business model, you are an owner, you're a partner, so I want people to wrap their head around this business model. Like, you don't lose control. You just, you're able to collaborate with more people on what's happening. And it's really quite beautiful. And consolidating those resources is what really increases the margin and the bottom line and the profit. So what I often see, I don't want to guarantee anything because this is just what I've seen from what y'all shown me, is, and my colleagues have told me this too, if they are seeing X amount of patients, and let's just say revenue at this point, collections, because that could be different for everybody, and they make, let's say, $100,000 a year. By joining Curis, you guys are able to consolidate some of those things, maximize profits and the margins. They're with that same volume. Oftentimes, they're able to make more on a monthly basis, month over month.
Yeah, well, because we're able to consolidate costs, right? So like there's fixed amount of cost in every business, and we're able to consolidate a lot of that cost, which is more efficient, right? So, instead of 3 chiropractors hiring the same person for the same dollar amount to do the marketing, we're able to go in and get much better deals because we, have a larger volume. And so we consolidate these things, which lowers the overhead and then also allows us, so if you're driving the same revenue, if you want to talk revenue, and the overall cost is lower, we're able to pretty much guarantee that you're going to perform better because we're able to take costs down. And we're incurring that cost.
Yeah.
And we manage it for everyone. And we're really interested in like making sure we get the best deals. And taking it down, because that's in the end, the revenue that goes back to our clinicians through the shares.
I just love that. I get so excited about this because you're really helping so many clinicians and my friends make more, see more patients, have a greater impact. But at the same time, their shares are growing over time too. So their exit strategy is great. So that is incredible. So during these times of uncertainty?
Yeah.
Talking to the docs that are on their own little island with their own single practice, what are some of the benefits during these uncertain times of being involved in a model like this?
Well, I don't know about you, but yesterday, Dallas declared that we were going to go shelter in place, right? So all of a sudden, my phone was blowing up. Everyone I knew's phone was blowing up. Like, what does that mean for us, right? Like, it's great to have a partner who's really vested in understanding what that means. So we take down uncertainty in the sense that we're like, well, we've done the homework, and here's what your chiropractic board is saying and the marriage and family therapy board is saying and what they're saying about HIPAA in this time. And so we're a resource when it comes to like, what do you do? But also we're a resource in the sense that it's a community. So, like you have people to case consult with, you have other clinicians who are equally vested in how do we do this well and right. Like if if you're on your own little island and you don't feel well, it's unlikely you're seeing clients, and your clients are going to be, hurting in this time frame if you have someone who really needs to see someone. But there are other chiropractors that they could go see in the meantime, with continuity of care. And I think that's a really huge asset. I also think it's a really huge asset that, like, for example, like right now, if you're on your own little island, you have the burden of rent and all of these other things that don't really stop. But as Curis, we have that burden, and we're really working actively to manage that. And you don't have to be involved in that at all.
Right. I can imagine the stress of rent, the stress of paying these people that work for you and work with you, right? Like that, to not have that stress would be worth it on its own. But you guys are still having revenue come in because there's different disciplines that can be virtual.
Yep.
And all that kind of stuff.
We're doing a lot of online therapies and remote consultations. And so that has been really strong for us.
I love that. I love the security it gives to the doctors, but also, like I said before, the staff members too. So this is awesome. All right. So Debbie, now we're going to go into the fire rapid round. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm going to ask you a few questions and you'll just give some quick, short answers for us, okay?
Okay, ready.
All right. So in hindsight, from a business perspective, what should be the 2 top areas of focus in practice?
I mean, it always comes down to like providing your best for your clients. Like that's always what it drills down to, is like customer service. And then I would say training is the other thing, right? Like, like go get trained in things that you're passionate about. Go, try on things to see what suits you. Those are the 2 things that matter the most, I think, about being in private practice and business success. Those 2.
I love it. What is the best advice that you have ever received in business?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Don't be a jack of all trades, be a master of none. Like that's it. That would definitely be it.
Love it. What is one thing that you see consistently in every successful business owner?
Lots of failure.
Ooh, I love that.
Lots of failure, because there's no proof that you're trying better than failure, but then each one of those failures like results in some learning that's really grand.
I love it. So this is the last question, and this is more about giving back. So what is one of the best resources that you have utilized in business that you would recommend for our listeners?
Who I love is John Wooden.
Say that again.
I'm familiar with John Wooden. Like his work is really pivotal in life and in business. He's an original sports psychologist who had the name of Coach. He's, won the NCAA title for UCLA like 8 times. 7 of those were consecutive. And he lived to be quite old, like I think in his 90s, like just early 90s, and was with it mentally until the end. But his advice, he has many books, but his advice, if you apply it to your practice and you apply it to your life, is just really pivotal. So I'd say go dig into some John Wooden.
Awesome. That's the first time that's ever been recommended on this show. So perfect. Thank you so much. Debbie, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your passion to really lead this movement. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Hollen. It's always great to be on with you.
You bet. Now, before I let you go, I'm sure there's some docs listening in saying, I need to know a little bit more about this business model. Like, what is this about? How can they get in contact with you?
The best way would probably be to go through our webpage, which is www.gocuris.com. All of our contact information is on that webpage. Or I think you can call our main line, 214-390-3259.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to include that information in the show notes as well. So thanks for your time.
We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Hollen.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank y'all so much for listening in. Be sure to share this with your colleagues and stay classy, folks.